Well, thank you very much, everybody, for inviting us to take part in the hack this weekend. We've had a great time. On the slide here, you can see the team. We're an international bunch, as it happens, and this is just a little something that we rustled up. That's our team name, and we came to the team name because we've been pretty dependent on Russell. Russell is the man who's had the technical expertise that we haven't necessarily had in other places. So our challenge was that a building company had a portfolio of properties that it was building and hoping therefore to sell, and it was hit by the lockdown. So coronavirus stopped progress on selling their portfolio of properties. They have a fixed schedule over which they can sell those properties, which is the blue dotted line on the graph on the right hand side here. And they had a program of production of development, that's the red line on the left hand side. Now that's been interrupted, and the gap between the two lines represents the amount of capital that they therefore have sat idle. So we were asked, could we build a model that would allow projection of reforecasting production dates for building the properties in order that it would reduce the amount of capital that was tied up. And in order to do that, we needed to take a Power BI model and data set that we were provided that had gaps in it, pass it through some Python using pandas to manipulate and join the data together and fill in the gaps, as Russell will explain in just a moment, on the construction and ready for sales dates that we didn't have. So going through the Python created an augmented table which was reloaded into Power BI, and we will talk about future capabilities shortly. So now over to Russell to take us through the technical details.
Thank you, Simon. And as you can see from the dashboard on the screen at the moment, this is what some of the screen grabs were earlier on. We have a development of multiple properties here shown with a forecast sale price and a forecast sale date. However, not all have been sold, and there's a lot of gaps further down in the table. Part of the process that we went through with the Python actions that we spoke about earlier on was with a view to populate these, which would then allow us to extrapolate an internal rate of return for all properties rather than just those that have been sold. To enable us to do that, we have built a system with PowerApps that will work in conjunction with this dashboard. We enable the PowerApps, we go down and we view the full IRRs that Python has produced. We choose from those the ones that are the least amount of time, i.e. we want to then push those out. We're now back in the original dashboard and our new detail comes through into the dashboard as such. So we can see the forecast sales data is completed down to the bottom, the IRR is completed down to the bottom, and our revised IRR that has been subject to the change that we've pushed out, shown by the revised line up here. The red line is exactly the same as it was in the original dashboard. The thin purple line here shows the cadence of the property builds following the adjustments. So in some 2 weeks time or so, when we have time to roll down, you can see that the production slows, comes to a complete halt. It will halt for somewhere in the region of a year, and it will start up again and move much in the same cadence as it did before. When we go back up to the top, we can see the original properties that were not changed. The revised IRR stays the same as it was palatable. Those that have changed were the ones that were lower, less palatable, and they range almost up to about 50%, showing a significant improvement in internal profit. We show here in this table also the same information aggregated to specific categories.
Thank you for that, Russell. So that was the Power BI component, and we perhaps pushed that a little bit further than our original brief asked us to, and we've set things up for future business benefits here because we're really facilitating the what if question on how much delay. The original brief was just could we predict future sales patterns, but we've actually now got the capacity to model a different degree of delay. So this allows the Cairn to consider whether to accelerate or postpone builds, and that therefore allows them to position where their outflows and their inflows are. As for us, well, our lessons learned starting at the bottom was a super productive weekend and enjoyable cooperation between folk from a number of different geographies, all done virtually. So quite a milestone for us in terms of continuous learning and exposure to a lot of tools such as Power BI and SQL programming and all the masterclasses. So that was us. Of course, it wasn't just Russell and I as the whole team. We've been the ones who have done the presenting here, but there was in fact a number of other folk in the background, or not in the background, in the foreground, but not visible here. So if any of you folk would like to add anything, clarify or contradict anything, please do so.
No, happy with what you presented. Thanks, guys.
Okay, great.
It was a highly valuable learning experience for me. Thank you for that.
We were asked a couple of questions, and for those I'll hand back to Russell because he's the font of knowledge on these topics. So if you'd like to pick up on these questions, Russell, that would be good.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, we hope you've enjoyed the presentation. The questions here are quite interesting. So the data structure is fixed at source. In one instance, we have ASTA scheduled data that has its own inherent logic, so we can be certain that the structure of the build data is fixed. And we have separate sources of data for sales forecast, which has itself been fixed by the commercial team, hence why we have tried to reshape the line to more adequately fix this the fixed blue line that we saw in the previous area. So any changes to the data we should expect to be able to facilitate quite easily with the application of the PowerApps that we've put in. So this allows specific properties to be chosen and have the construction date delayed by an N amount of time, and those will automatically be pulled back through into the model and shown appropriately. So there's very little opportunity for errors of logic or conflicts because the data that is important is dynamic, plus we have the existing fixed data. When we look at the build prioritization of the properties, we've split that down into roads, and we have also shown the range of the IRR. So the decisions being made by the people as to which properties to defer or not should be mindful of in which areas they are. But the dashboard that we showed there did show you those grouped together, and there was some commonality with the higher levels of IRR being in certain areas of roads. So the purple horizontal line that we drew and the blue dotted line that were in the original data are going to provide us with a check that our building prioritization does indeed match what's expected, and that we haven't got mistakes in the algorithms by which we produced forward dates. Good, I think we're done, aren't we, folks? Is that a wrap, as they say?